So,
and I think at one point I said, if you watched it once a day or every week.
I'm terrible. Hey, Litternet! It's Paul, it's Matt, the Dork Lords. We are here talking about The Expanse, Season 4, Episodes 1 and 2, New Terra and Jetsam.
Wish us luck.
Wish us luck. All right. So before we leap into a recap, a little introduction is in order here. All right.
Hello, I'm Paul.
He's Paul. I'm Matt. I'm Paul. No. Paul, I'm going to throw all the blame onto Paul here.
Yeah.
Paul has seen every episode as an encyclopedic knowledge of the show. So if something does not meet your standard, you blame Paul on this.
Or more accurately, I've seen every episode and have as vague a recollection as for any other show you've seen me talk about.
All right, great, awesome. As for me, I'm basically a newcomer to the show. I watched a couple episodes in the first season, and it was fine. I enjoyed it, but I just whatever.
Oh, I don't remember you doing that. I didn't realize you'd watch any of them.
catch on to it, and so whatever. It just sometimes the show drifts away from.
Sure,
me,
yeah,
and that's what it did.
Yep,
and that was years and years and years ago. So, but in the meantime, the show keeps going on. Amazon picked this up after Sci-Fi dropped it.
Yep.
It has found a good home there on Amazon. Yes. It's going to have a season 5.
Keeping it fat.
They've already said season 5 is coming around.
That's right. They already said it.
So, and we've had multiple people, commenters say, "Hey, you guys should cover The Expanse." Guess what? We're covering The Expanse.
Yeah.
Ta-da! But that said, I'm a little neophyte. I'm picking up the names. We're gonna get this right. But anyway, so we're in season 4, episodes 1 and 2, and again, blame Paul. Okay, great.
And also, just get your fingers ready on your keyboard. Well, actually,
you can actually the crap out of this probably. All right, but no, we're gonna make it perfect. All right. All right. So
Holden obviously would first appeared in Catching the Rye.
Correct. Captain Caulfield. What we're talking about here is it begins with a group of belters, and they are on the ship, the Barba Piccola, and they run the blockade, and they go through a ring gate into parts unknown, and it's like 8 months later, and then we come up with Holden, and then we're going to end with everybody's on that planet that the belters went to, and they have set off one of these proto-molecule structures that's now just shooting lightning bolts everywhere, and everybody's like, what did we just do? And that's our range of stuff that we're doing here. Okay. So, yes, when last we left off with our intrepid heroes, they set off a series of ring gates. I think they even mentioned something like 1,300 of them. There's a lot of ring gates. All of them go to parts unknown out of our solar system. And so there's essentially the equivalent of a gold rush. There's there's money to be made mining on some distant planet no one's ever been to before, and a lot of desperate people. And so people are attempting to go to these parts unknown.
But
there's a blockade.
That's right. They don't want that to happen. The UN forces.
You want to explain why that is?
Well, they're cautious. They're spooked, and terrible things nearly happened with the proto-molecule before, so now they're suspicious.
Indeed. The proto-molecule, there was an asteroid, Eros. It was actually heading toward Earth, and it was going to do terrible things to Earth. And instead, one of our heroes, Joe Miller, who now is just an image in Holden's head, helps steer Eros to Venus. It crashes into Venus instead of Earth. He saves humanity, and now he's just an image in Holden's head, which shows up very quickly into this episode 1. We meet up with Joe. Is he like a version of a proto-molecule, Joe? Is that what we think? He's merged with a proto-molecule somehow?
Yeah, I think because one of the things you see I don't think it's either in this episode or the next one where he's like talking to other protomolecule beings or something.
Yeah,
so he's
we
sort
get
of
like you can't even understand what they're saying. It's like
right. Yep. He's like, oh yeah, I get you. Oh, what? I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to. Oh, you see.
That's what that was. I was trying to understand. I knew it was him talking, but I didn't understand what he was talking to. I got it. I thought maybe he was trying to talk to Holden, and Holden wasn't understanding.
No.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah. So he's like a go-between or whatever.
Okay.
And so that's why where he's like, do this, and he nearly dies. Like it sets the thing off, and he nearly dies. He doesn't even tell him. You should book ass after you do this.
So that said, now I have only watched episodes 1 and 2 so far. Have you watched farther than that?
I have actually.
Okay.
I haven't watched the complete season, but I'm like at least 2 episodes ahead of this.
Okay. If you've watched, I've watched, I think the first 2 episodes of season 1 and 2 episodes of season 4. So that's it. That's what I've got. I've got 4 episodes. All right. So
after watching these, the 2 in the second season, did anything from the first 2 episodes come back to you?
Holden did. I remember that Holden at that time was not the captain of the ship.
No, he was a different ship. Yeah, you actually saw how he betrayed the
and it was kind of like a space madness guy going on.
He was like a
I remember the space madness guy.
Did.
So that's what I remember.
Okay.
So the blockade has been successfully run. 8 months have gone by, and what's happened is our General Secretary of the UN, Christian, she has been told that there is, in fact, evidence of protomolecule structures on the planet that these belters have shown up on it. So she's worried, justifiably.
Yeah.
Oh, protomolecules are going to go infect these guys, and maybe they'll come back and kill us all or whatever.
Who knows?
So we meet Holden. Again, he's back on Earth, meeting up with his mom. And there's kind of an important scene here. This is the first time we see him in this season. And she asks why Naomi hasn't joined.
Yep.
And he's like, well, it's Earth, and the gravity. She can't walk on the planet. She's like, well, there was plenty of time to take the drugs on the way. So that's interesting because it's setting up later that she does take drugs to get on another planet. But
also though, letting it know that it's like that's a lot to ask. He says of somebody to do that.
And he's like, it isn't her home, and I didn't want to ask her to do that much for something just to meet you. Her mother-in-law's not worth it.
Well, and the interesting thing about this, something I'd forgotten actually, but recently reminded and trying to bone up because he keeps telling me how I'm responsible for all this knowledge.
Blame Paul.
I'd forgotten that he is actually a part of a weird family structure where there's like at least 4 different people provided his genetic material. So he has a number of different parents, basically.
Oh, okay.
That's one of the things about the Earth is that there's all this overcrowding or whatever. So there's different kind of family dynamics that are at play. So that's so he's actually very privileged coming from Earth, and that's an unusual thing. So it's not just her that he would have to meet.
I got you. So we just see her in this situation.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me a little bit of I forget which movie it was. Star Trek 4 or 5, where you have Kirk and Spock sitting out in the woods at a campfire, and then they're like, and now back to space stuff.
Nah.
But it's kind of the idea, like, we're out in the woods camping. Yeah. Now back to space stuff.
Yeah.
But notably, she gives him a copy of Don Quixote. He's like, oh, I should read this again. Now, I am sure if you've been watching this series, there have to be a million Don Quixote references. I'm just coming into it, so I'm starting to go, hey, look, there's a lot of Don Quixote references.
Somebody who's watched all those episodes, it's like, oh yeah, I guess, okay.
So you can put them in the comments, please. Illuminate
it's like,
me.
yes, Amos is Sancho Panza, obviously.
Now the Sancho Panza, I'm a little confused, but the Rocinante, his ship, that is Don Quixote's horse. I think you could therefore assume like the horse is the steed, so the horse and the ship are carrying our Don Quixote. Don Quixote would then be, you'd almost have to say, it would be Holden as this character. He's got a code. Maybe he even sees himself as like a knight errant or something. And now in the case of Don Quixote, he's actually also he sees visions. He's not all there. He has a rich imaginary life.
And that's one of the interesting things. I certainly haven't read Don Quixote, but I have seen at least one movie that's based on it or whatever. when I was much younger. But my impression of Sancho Panza is he was sort of like, okay, if you say you see these stuff, I'll go along with it. But he's not,
Well, I seem to remember. Yeah, it's been a while since I read it. I did read it, but it was like high school. I feel like there was a situation where Sancho Panza would actually pay lip service to his illusions.
Right, but he would
like get him through, but he didn't believe him himself.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And the difference between Sancho Panza and the crew of the Rocinante is that they accept it.
Yeah, that's a good point. It was something I did notice in these 2 episodes was like, no one is like, he's crazy.
Yeah,
They're like, oh, did you talk to Miller again?
Yeah.
What did he say?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Well, if you've seen some of the events where it's like, okay, we're going to go there, and I think initially they might have been like, are you sure? It's like all crazy kind of crap happened where they're like, okay, this is happening.
Right. Which is kind of refreshing. I like the fact that everyone's just on board with it. We don't have to waste time with,
who
are
are you talking to? Oh, just talking to
you...
that guy that I say is there and you don't see. Yeah. Oh, him? All right, what do you say?
So there is I think you could write an effective essay comparing Don Quixote to Holden. Also, I noticed that the ship where we've got Ashford and Drummer, it's the Medina station, Medina, Spain. This thing is it's a Spanish story. Anyway, it's kind of anyway. There you go. Please give me all of your Don Quixote actuallys. That's great. Okay, so he then meets up. Joe Miller comes into his head. It's like, hey, why aren't we going through these ring gates? He's like, look, I've been asking. I've asked, I think he says like a ton of times. And I keep getting told no. And it's almost like Miller's stuck in a loop where he keeps like, we need the next clue in the case.
Yeah.
Next clue in the case. And he almost can't stop saying it.
Yeah.
So fortuitously, Holden gets a call, goes, and Christian is like, yep, I'm sending you through the ring gates because we are worried about these protomolecules. We want you to investigate because you had these visions, back in season 3, and so
I don't know that that's the reason why she's.
So what do you think?
Maybe it is, but certainly he and the Rocinante were at the forefront of dealing with the protomolecules.
Okay. So she trusts them perhaps more than others.
Yes.
So they get the go-ahead, which fits with the Miller Proto Miller. We'll call him Proto Miller.
Yes.
With Proto Miller's agenda. So it's like, all right, great, we'll do this. And so they head off. It's going to take a little while to get there, but as I mentioned, 8 months have passed before they even get the directive to go. And you figure it takes them at least a few weeks, if not maybe months to get there.
I don't know.
It takes a little while to get to Illis. I mean, I know that she's en route,
The thing that I don't, true. I mean, I don't know if it's a couple of weeks or a week or whatever. The thing that's interesting about this series is that they are, even though they only just had this ability to go from to other planetary systems, the fact that they can travel fairly quickly between planets in their own solar system, though, is because they actually have some really fast drives, but they can't do warp speed.
They're not faster than light stuff.
Right, but there's stuff that is fairly fast though, so that's what makes me wonder really how much time is lost. But it also too adds interesting stuff to their communication that you've seen in terms of the delay and things like that.
Yes. Oh, that was taken 6 weeks ago or something like that.
Yeah, and when one of the crew members, Alex, is trying to talk to that person who's in jail, it's like
Clarissa.
It's like the time thing is messing us up.
And I do like the tech is cool in that it's sci-fi, but it's sci-fi that you could. I'm not traveling to other planets, probably not. But, but the things of I have a way to flick video from my little view screen to a bigger screen. You feel like that's something that's not
right.
That we
well, another interesting thing too is one of the reasons why they're able to. They don't have artificial gravity. So they have these boots that are allowing them to walk on stuff, and that's why they're also have to take injections. These people who aren't used to living
on a planet,
right? So
Naomi spent her life not being on a planet.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that's why it's so special to her that she's willing to undergo these terrible, painful
Right.
things to like be able to
Right,
walk on.
but also too, there are a number of things that maybe you might be used to with other films or other sci-fi things that don't exist here. Like they've actually structured their ships so that when they're going forward, the gravity is actually provided by that force that keeps them back. So they're sort of like they're sitting on the bottom, and that's how they get their gravity. And then once they get there, they flip around so they could slow down or whatever.
Okay, all right, right. So they've worked it into the narrative of the show that there's a way to compensate for gravity issues. Anyway, Naomi does undergo some painful stuff. She has a conversation with Drummer, who's one of the on this Belter ship, and she's mentioning, "Oh, you're going to Illis," and Drummer, even though she's a Belter, and these are Belters that have gone off through the ring gate and are on Illis, she's kind of against it. She's like, these people that kind of basically saying they shouldn't have gone. And Naomi is making the case like, well, everybody needs a place to call home.
Right.
Which again, it obviously in her mind that she's going to make this maybe not if not her home. She wants to be able to get on this planet, walk on it with the person she loves, and they can call it like a home almost. And so that's obviously a huge theme for her for this season, I would think, especially since apparently it hasn't been for 3 seasons. She's just been out in space, but now it's like I have a chance to be grounded, so to speak. Anyway.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, I didn't get that when I was watching it, but this is a complex show.
Yeah, gotcha. I mean, I'm just saying because she seems so driven. Even after she's told, we'll jump ahead. But Alex tells her, "Look, if you keep going there, your cardiac system is not adjusting. You will die if you keep going down this planet." Right. So for somebody who spent their life not on a planet, you would think there'd at least be part of you to be like, "Okay, got it. I can't do it. I'll just stay here then."
Right,
but she's like, "No, I want to go down the planet." So there's got to be something driving her.
Yeah, you would think.
And there's a cool moment there when she first steps out and she falls, she gets back up, and then she's like, "This is my first time," so it's kind of cool.
There's something that occurs though when the presumably United Forces survey group heads over there with scientists and military to the planet New Terra. Right, they're going down there to explore. They're like, "Ooh, that place, that proto-molecule thing is. Ooh, what's that about?" And like, they're discussing how the planet doesn't have any seismic or tectonic things. And they're like, "Ooh, isn't that interesting?" And then as they're coming down, objects start hitting their ship and start tearing it apart. So they crash. But there are survivors, and so that's when we meet
Murtry and Okoye, I think, are your two important people.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, when I first saw that scene, I thought they were bullets. Maybe it was just shrapnel. It must have been shrapnel, because otherwise they're going to be like, well, who did this?
Well, it is a question of what's going on, because one of the questions was whether or not it was the
sabotage.
Sabotage or the creatures that are in the planet or whatever. So, but certainly Amos is convinced that it's sabotage.
Right, but the way that they thought it was sabotage was that they blew up the launch pad.
Right.
So my first viewing of it, when the people are sitting in their little, whatever, the seats, it looks like a line of bullets hits them, like tick, which would kind of mean no, it probably wasn't bugs. It was probably a guy shooting at you. But maybe it's not. Maybe it was debris, shrapnel hitting.
Yeah, it could have been,
perhaps. In any case, yes. So we have that issue of before our heroes get to go down to the planet.
Yes.
This other little expeditionary force gets sabotaged. A lot of people killed. And it kind of speeds up the need for Holden and company to get down there to like.
Yeah, they've already established at least a few times people trying to get over there and some people failing to get through these rings. And this particular colony, is pretty resentful. I mean, they're Belters before, and I guess they were getting a lot of injections themselves, but they're suspicious of these people.
Right, in their minds, and maybe rightfully so, they think, oh, well, Earth is just trying to keep everybody else off of the cool minerals, and so they just want it for themselves. They're not trying to blockade it for any safety reasons. They just want to hoard the wealth.
Yes.
So screw you, we're going to get it ourselves. And so we've got a situation, I would say it seems more likely than not that there was sabotage. I don't think it was the proto-molecule destroying the ship. It seems like the Belters were antagonistic towards this ship and decided they were going to do something about it. In any case, you've set up a situation where there is a major antagonism between, especially this guy Mercury, who seems to be like he mentioned military, like a military. He's taken control of the group that's there, that's monitoring our Belters.
Well, yeah. Initially, he wants to find out people responsible, because once he finds that out from Amos, he's like, okay, I want whoever did it. I don't, this is...
That's an episode 2 thing, but yes. I mean, we can extend this out. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So he basically is like, kind of martial law.
I mean,
almost.
how much time you want to take to do this?
Yeah, I know.
Don't get too caught up in the details.
Okay, sorry. Oh, damn it. Okay, so yeah. So, he's like, hey, you have until tomorrow to give me whoever did this, and, if you don't, there's going to be bad times ahead. There's some Belters that they do like an idle threat to him, basically, and he just jumps on it. It's like, oh, that was a threat. Boom.
Yes, he kills him.
And he shoots the guy unprovoked, really. I mean, the guy doesn't have a weapon on him or anything. And Amos sees that.
Yes.
Amos being one of the crew of the Rocinante. And so I think that's setting up a situation of Amos versus Mercury. I mean, the fact that they were together examining the bomb site and stuff, I think they're setting that up as like a storyline of Amos is going to have to be like, yeah, I technically am on your side, Mercury, because of where, we're not Belters, but I disagree with what you've just done.
It's hard. I would, having watched all the shows.
Oh, okay.
I would probably refrain from, I feel like Amos's thing is generally about stopping abuse. So people who are abusing their power or hurting other people or whatever, but he's far more. He wouldn't begin a war against somebody. He's more in terms of, someone's happening that's wrong. If I'm around, I'm going to stop it. But it wouldn't be like, okay, I've got to stop this guy. He's more I'm looking after my family, and maybe you shouldn't do this. And if you're doing something wrong, I'll stop you from doing it. But he's not. It's possible he's the one who's going to do it, but all of them have a reason to be against what he's doing.
That's true. It's true. I just thought because they'd shown them together in a few different scenes, and it keeps showing and Amos is the one who sees him shoot the guy. It might be, but maybe they're setting him. That's his storyline.
It could be,
perhaps. At the end of episode 1, we have this. There's kind of a confrontation about to happen in that moment when these bugs show up and pretty much cut everybody and fly off. And in the moment, I thought, oh boy, they're going to infect everyone. Didn't seem to happen.
They tested everybody, and that wasn't the case.
You're fine. So, but these little mechanical bugs all flew off to the proto-molecule structures. And so that's where they head in episode 2 to investigate it. They discover, there's a case made that these structures were over 1 billion years old. So they predated the life that's on this planet. So there's, as they put it, 3 life forms that are on this planet. There's the proto-molecules, there's whatever the indigenous life form was, and now there are
humans.
Humans. So, how do those 3 things get together? And maybe part of that Naomi walking on this earth is kind of a part of that too, where I can't, my body isn't telling me don't be here, but I'm auto-correcting it so that I can be. It's kind of maybe a similar thing. Maybe some things aren't meant to gel together. So Miller shows up again, goes, hey, you should check out this one particular, I don't know what
structure.
Deflector array, no, whatever it is. Proto-molecule structure, there's a root growing out of it. If you cut that root, that would be great, and we can make this thing work. And so that's what happens. But yes, as you mentioned, almost kills Holden because almost pancakes him. Alex saves the day, and things start shooting lightning. And that's where we end off with our episode 2. To what end it's shooting lightning, I'm not sure. Seems fairly destructive, but maybe it's just residual energy getting thrown off by a machine that's now working. Anyway, you've probably already seen that, so you know. But anyway,
I've seen it, I know. But
all right.
So I know more.
So other plot lines, because there's a lot of plot lines that go on with this show. You've got Bobby Draper.
Oh,
She
yes.
is on Mars. She has been court-martialed, kind of saved the day, but had to get court-martialed, had to break the rules to do it. She was a Marine who's no longer a Marine, essentially.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing about her, where she's a very passionate patriot for Mars, really, so much so where she was perfectly fine with some things that Mars were doing to sort of basically attack Earth in a way. But once she actually had to take part, she actually befriended basically the president of Earth, which is Christian, and so people obviously don't feel so great about her because of that.
Apparently saved Christian's life at some point as well.
Yeah, there was this siege, and she was protecting her.
So she's got a crap job essentially on Mars, and because she's been court-martialed, she gets constantly. She comes in on checks and gets harassed and like, oh, someone did a crime. You probably did it because you're a criminal. And so she's kind of the criminal class is what she's been kind of designated as, which not a nice thing.
No, definitely not nice. I wouldn't like that.
Nope. She gets called in for interrogation, and she's living with her nephew. Is that right? Is her nephew? She finds out her nephew is basically caught up in a drug ring. She goes and follows him to the drug ring and beats the living hell out of all the druggies.
Yes,
tells them, my nephew's out.
Very short-sightedly, just thinks that she can knock them all down.
Yes, and the idea.
She's a woman of action, though.
True. When she says something like, "Next time there won't be a next time." Like, there we go. There's a tagline for you. And she whisks her nephew away. Meanwhile, she was also invited to Christian visits Mars. It's a big auspicious occasion. She's visiting Mars, trying to show a union between Mars and Earth. So Christian sends this invite, and Bobby accepts. She's there. She feels very isolated because people aren't talking to her. But she does sit next to Christian's husband.
Well, Christian's husband more accurately sits next to her.
Good point. And they have a conversation. He's like, you know what? Thank you so much for saving my wife's life.
Yep.
And very cool. And Bobby realizes she's there just because she's
a token, basically.
She's a Martian that happens to, he's like, hey, look, peaceful times. So I got a Martian here.
Yeah, here's the person that saved the president's life. A Martian. Yay! You like her, don't you? Yeah. You don't like her? Oh, too bad.
Which I can understand Bobby's frustration on the one hand, but on the other hand, I'm like, all right, you went to this dinner, you sat with her husband, whatever. It was a nice dinner. You got food out of it. And yes, she wanted to have you there to say, look, I know people that are on your side. And I don't know, I don't see it as a terrible thing. I don't see the invitation as like a slap in Bobby's face. I see it as like, yeah, okay.
She's being used as a political pawn, though. So it's one thing like, oh, have a little dinner, so you can meet my husband, and come to a dinner where I could use you for political purposes. Yeah. And she's not liked by anybody there, but she's trying to, but the president's trying to leverage that, or I shouldn't call it the president, but whatever. Christian's trying
General Secretary or something?
Yeah, General Secretary. Christian's trying to leverage that, though, that relationship to make this broader point about how we should all pull together, even though most of their history, and even some of Christian's history, is sort of like, we're going to do what we want to do as Earth. Right. So it's a lot to ask.
I saw it as eminently reasonable that she would invite Bobby to that dinner.
Yes, and I mean, considering the actions that Bobby's getting there, it's like I had to remind myself, why isn't she just going to?
Right, because she gets
using
invited,
her political power to do anything.
Christian also says, "Hey, you come back and work for me."
Right,
and Bobby's like, "Nope, not going to do it."
Yeah.
Which then, after this drug thing, where she saves her nephew, I feel like perhaps it's leading in the direction of, okay, well, maybe it's time to leave Mars.
No.
Okay, sorry. All right, I thought maybe it's like, hey, here's a nice out. I can help my nephew from falling into the wrong people. We'll just move, and I'll go work with. Okay, no.
I typically don't, but in this case, no.
No. Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right.
No. Mars is obviously still important, so you wouldn't have the main character.
I got you.
Who's
Leave
on
Earth. Okay.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
I got you. We've got our Ashford and Drum. I was really excited. David Strathairn. Love the actor.
Oh yeah, he's great.
I think I first remember him from Sneakers, which is a great movie. Love that movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
But he's done other awesome work besides that. Actually, he was in a really cool. I say it's a smaller movie. Maybe it's not. But Limbo. You remember the movie Limbo?
Nope, small movie.
Small movie. Really, really cool. And it has this really neat, ambiguous ending, and he was really great in it. Anyway, okay. But so to see him in this part, I'm like, yeah, nice. He is monitoring pirates that are attacking, I think, Earth ships. Is that like Belter pirates that are attacking ships that are hanging outside these rings? I think.
Yeah.
And he's feeling guilty about it a little bit. Like he's betraying the Belters.
Yes, yeah, because one person on his deathbed or death floor,
he
was just insulting him like, "Oh, you're a traitor. You're just doing terrible things.
You're just a lap dog for Earth, basically."
Yeah.
And you could tell that Ashford's kind of taking it to heart a bit. There's that bit where he's being asked to give his identification.
Yes.
And he's like, "I'm not gonna." And he waits till the very last second. Fine, just give him the thing. So that's an interesting relationship. Again, I haven't seen him in the other seasons.
No, you haven't.
So I was trying to do the thing which I do in these when we find a new show, which is like I pick someone that I think is most likely to die.
Yeah. And what you thought was like, oh well, he's a fairly well-known star,
so he probably shouldn't die. So it's probably.
Well, you were thinking like, oh well, just like if you're watching a mystery show and like there's somebody who has a name.
Oh yeah. Oh,
walking around, obviously this guy's the killer, and he's gonna leave at the end of the show. He's not gonna stick around for very long.
Wait, Jimmy Smits is in this? Yeah. All right, well he's gonna be the killer. Okay. Yeah. No, but so.
And one of the things that's interesting about Ash and I forgot Drummer's relationship is that in terms of power, there have been some differences in terms of who has power and who doesn't have power or whatever. So even though they've been at odds, whatever, they've come to an understanding and they've.
And see, I didn't get any of the power. What I got out of it was they seem to be two people that are kind of fulfilling the same function. They seem to be almost like co-leaders, and I'm sure that I'm simplifying it way too much. But what I got out of it was they're doing a very dangerous mission. They've been called on to, there's this extra dangerous Belter pirate that you need to track down, and they're in the middle of kind of.
Now, were you actually thinking that most likely Ash that was going, or did you like?
That's why I didn't know.
Because it's like if you're gonna say like, let's see, which one we're gonna use, the hot chick or the older star.
If you were asking me to,
which one are we most likely to?
I was leaning towards keeping David Strathairn on the show because I like him as an actor. But I feel like one of them, if I were to mat someone at this point.
Yes.
And again, it's a show that's in its fourth season, so obviously, if you're alive this long, you've probably got a reason in the show for staying around this long.
Although
you weren't just put on the show to die.
Although maybe the reason is, in this season, who knows? I mean, I don't know. Okay. Anybody who's seen all the episodes this
probably
season would know.
No, I mean, like I would say the most likely person to die that I've seen in these first two episodes is probably Mercury.
Yeah.
He's just a violent dick, and so probably he will end through violence.
Yeah.
But if I were to think of like. And I don't think the main cast, our Rocinante crew, is doomed for death. I think they're going to be just fine, especially because we know there's a season 5. Yeah. So it's not like this is the end of the series. So they're there. So I was just thinking of other people like Bobby and Christian and these folks who would be the most likely, perhaps, to die. I thought there's two people serving the same function in the ship, and they're doing a very dangerous mission. I could imagine one of them, Drummer or Ashford, dying, in some probably heroic way or something by the end of this season. But that's just me, and I'm probably way off because, as you say, they've been here since when? Season 2?
At least, yeah.
All right, so knowing that, I'm less like, maybe it's not a... It's certainly not 100%. I'm just saying...
Definitely not.
Mercury is my maybe number one, and then category sub A would be either Drummer or Ashford.
Right, yeah. I don't know. I'm forgetting the problems that Ash has had particularly, but Drummer would be one of those, like, oh, you were nearly killed by the whole proto-molecule thing that happened or whatever. Your body was just messed up entirely. But then we're going to kill you the next season. You're alive.
One of those near death, yes. And then why kill them after the near death? I hear you. All right, so again, I'm probably way off.
Hot chick.
All right.
So.
Oh, there's that. Okay. So there we go. I mean, I know there's a lot more to talk about there, but that's essentially our episodes 1 and 2. Any final thoughts, sir?
No.
All right, very good.
You know, because it's hard for me to divorce what I've seen from, you know.
Oh, right, because you've got 3 and 4. So, okay. So 3 and 4 coming up. And we'll be back talking about those next time. Thanks, everybody. I'm really enjoying the show. I'm sorry that I let it pass back in the day. So
yeah, we had talked about it, you know, at least a season ago, if not 2.
Yeah, well, it's been like a year and a half since season 3 came out, right? I mean, it's been
a while since season came out. So, and I think at one point I said, you know, if you watched it once a day or every 2 or every week.
I'm terrible. Okay. Anyway, so thanks, everybody, and we'll be back talking about The Expanse very soon. Bye.
Bye.